This is not your typical BS tier list video on YouTube. Yes, you will get the full tier list, of course, but we will also talk about every hero that had an adjustment in the latest patch and how this change affected them in the current meta. The more was changed, the more we talk about that hero. This format we will do every month from now on, so any suggestions for the future episodes are highly appreciated. The shoutout of the week goes to Xenon, who made all the timestamps for the all attack item explained guide last week. If you want to have a shoutout as well, write something nice or helpful down into the comments. Stay awesome and enjoy the video. Oh, and by the way, before I forget it, hello my friends!
We start with the jungle and the newest hero, Fredrin. His main role is tank fighter and he can be used in the jungle, as roamer or on the XP lane. Heroes that can be used on so many different lanes are really awesome for solo queue players, because you never really have to adjust if he's your main. My first impression about him is, number 1, he's fucking sturdy. His passive gives you crystal energy, what is his built-in lifesteal. It is shown as a transparent shield when your HP is reduced by the enemy, and he can regain his lost HP back by dealing any kind of damage to any enemy. That works without any regen items, by the way, but the crystal energy disappears after a while. Number 2, good DPS. He deals a decent amount of damage to the enemies even without equipment. Maybe you saw the video from 𝐽𝐸𝐸 where he took down the Lord on level 1. I tried it myself and yeah, you can take down that fecker on level 1 easily. So you can build defensive items on him and still deal a good amount of damage. Especially because his first skill deals more damage the more max HP you have. Number 3, element of surprise. His ultimate can deal an absurd amount of damage. Its damage is depending on how much crystal energy you have. The more you have, the more damage you deal. Without crystal energy, your damage is meh. But when you have this much energy, you can easily... just wait a second. As I wanted to say, if you have this much crystal energy, you can deal an absurd amount of damage and regen a lot of HP while you're on it. Number 4, fast cooldowns. His skills have a very short cooldown when you land your combo perfectly, because his third skill can reduce the CD time of your first second skills by 75%. His skills also cost 0 mana, so spam them like there's no tomorrow. Number 5, cool design. His face looks like a chat, he lives like a chat. Based on the Mobile Legends lore, he relinquished his nobility status and searches adventures out for fun. Plus, he looks better than Alucard, and his muscles, damn! There are also some negatives though. Number 1, CC effects. He doesn't have any strong or game-changing CC effects. Sure, he can knock up an enemy every few seconds with the second skill, but it's only a single target lock, and this leads to his next weakness. Number 2, small AoE. His skills doesn't have huge AoE effects. Even the taunt of his third skill have a small AoE, which lets him have less impact in team fights. Number 3, short distance. All of his skills have a pretty low range. Enemies with high mobility can easily outrun him, while enemies with long range attacks can anticipate his movements. Number 4, requires good aim. His ult deals a huge damage, but only to the enemies inside of the line, while the rest on the outer area will take less damage. So you can't deal the maximum amount of damage if your aim sucks. In conclusion, he's a sturdy bastard with a surprise burst damage when he's low on HP. He works best with defensive equipments that give him a lot of HP like Guardian Helmet or Cursed Helmet, and regen items like Bloodlust Axe or Oracle. New heroes got a huge advantage anyway because many low-level players don't know how they work or how they can counter them. So he is a good choice to rank up solo right now. Fredrin is in the A tier on the jungle and roam list, and on the lower A tier on the the XP lane. Number 2, the smoky lady, Natalia. Moonton practically nerfed roam Natalia, because they really want us players to play her as jungler. Her first skill triggers her passive on creeps from now on, and her ultimate is based on charges. Now she can reduce the charge time by clearing jungle creeps, which means she's way more effective when she's a jungler. Blacklist International, for example, used jungle Natalia to win their game against NXP EVOs in the MPL. In conclusion, her playstyle hasn't changed that much by this adjustment. Moonton just wants to popularize jungle Natalia and stop us using Natalia as roamer and ruin the day of the enemies in the early game. Natalia roam goes from A tier to B tier, while Natalia jungle goes from B tier to high A tier and maybe even lower S tier. Number 3, the emo boy, Julian. This boy has been experiencing a nerf streak. It really makes him so much weaker compared to the first release, but his skill set is still as annoying as ever. In conclusion, only his damage got lower. This will not change a lot from his gameplay. Yes, he's not the number 1 pick or ban candidate anymore, but as of recording, he's still the 3rd most banned hero in higher mythic games. He stays on the S tier with a pick or ban flag. Number 4, Karina One-chan. Although if I have a look at her, she's more the One-san type, I think. Anyone who's not a weeb have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about right now. Another nerf from Muton. Her damage on her first skill and ult is lowered in the early game. We have a weaker Karina early. Now rejoice, squishies! In conclusion, her main damage is the true damage from her passive, so this nerf will only affect her early game. She still eats marksman for breakfast. Karina stays on S tier. Number 5, the main cast of Meteor Garden, Ling. Moonton lowered his sustainability. In conclusion, nothing major. You only die more often when you're playing too aggressive. Still, a pretty boy. Ling stays on S tier. Number 6, the unrequited love, Yin. Yeah, Yin actually sees 1-1 as his lover, but 1-1 doesn't even consider him as anything. This is canon according to Moonton's relationship status. Our boy is not even in the friend zone, he's in the ignored zone. Whoops, I got distracted. Moonton reduced his stun duration, but lowered the cooldown on his dash skill. In conclusion, Yin is a delusional virgin, and he's dreaming about 1-1 being his lover. Wait, no, go back to the adjustments. Don't go full daddy mode and protect your daughter from the evil boys, Nico. Yin have more mobility from the reduced cooldown, but his stun is less deadly when being in Leaf form. Yin stays on A tier. Number 7, the strongest hero in Mobile Legends, Alufeed. Alucard has been feeding so much that he almost solved the world hunger problem on his own. So Moonton decided to nerf his feeding ability by increasing his damage. In conclusion, still the mightiest hero in Epical Glory, and there are no counters for him. This little nerf on his feeding ability won't stop him doing charity events for the enemies though. Alucard stays on B tier. Number 8, Oni-chan. After being bashed by a nerf streak, Aniki's popularity has sunk to the bottom of the list. Now Moonton tries to save him by improving his damage scaling. In conclusion, increasing his enhanced basic attack is only a minor buff for team fights, and his jungling ability since you deal a lot of enhanced basic attacks on creeps. Amon stays on the A tier. Now to the full jungle tier list. This is mainly focused on being a solo queue tier list, since about 75% of you mostly play solo queue. So this is the scenario I had in my mind while creating the tier list. Here you have the full jungle tier list. Wait before you write any hate comment, okay? Listen to my reasoning why certain heroes are better than others. Firstly, we have a lot of strong junglers right now. That's why the A tier is filled with so many heroes. The S tier is filled with a lot of heroes who have the ability to split push, who can check bushes on their own, who have a great mobility and a great survivability. With these heroes you are less dependent on the team. Junglers who are bad at taking down objectives alone, or who are more dependent on the team, are rated lower on this solo queue tier list. Although they might be very strong in the coordinated 5-man team. It's also generally easier to play as jungler solo because you carry the retribution spell. You can also focus the objectives easier than any other role. Secondly, we have the XP lane. Number 1, my forgotten first main, Badang. He's finally back. Finally I can make use of the full collection of skins again, where I spent way too much money on. Talking about spending money, re-download Mobile Legends right now with Aptoid, so you can get more value for your money, as you can see in this graphic. The step-by-step guide is in the description box below. Back to Badang. Moonton called it an adjustment, but all I see is a buff. Storing charges on his first skill is more fitting for his flanking playstyle. Most Badang players will still do a surprise attack with a 2-3-1 or 2-1-3 combo, but even longer combos with his first skill are possible now. And even though they reduce his base damage on his first skill and ult, it doesn't really affect his performance in the match. His second skill is also buffed since he gets a shield now every time you dash. A good addition for his survivability, because you have always access to a shield. In conclusion, his playstyle stays the same to surprise the enemy's damage dealer. Moonton makes him more versatile in quick team fights, and lowering his cooldown gives him a higher burst potential. But most of the time, he's still your average one combo guy in the end. After casting all his skills, he's still a sitting duck. Badang moves from the B tier to the A tier. Number 2, the arsonist, 𝐿. This half cyborg dude got some steroids injected by Moonton. His mobility is increased when restoring his armor, and his first and ultimate now benefits from magic power. Be prepared for Ice Queen Wand 𝐿 in your matches from now on. He will be an annoying enemy when you meet one on the lane. In conclusion, he's still flimsy and weak compared to the S tier fighters, but his new build will give him more flexibility in the match. 𝐿 goes to the A tier. Number 3, the Jujutsu Kaisen boss, Thamus. Moonton nerfed his first skill damage and increased the cooldown of it. In conclusion, minor nerf. The cooldown part will have a small impact, but he will still easily dominate any enemy on the lane. Still a very good pick for ranking up. Thamus stays on the S tier. Number 4, the strongest Ashura but got beaten by a bear girl, Martis. Moonton gives him a slight buff on his second skill damage. You can clear the minions faster now by using his second skill. Yay! In conclusion, it doesn't really change his gameplay. The slight damage boost doesn't give you a much better chance against S tier XP laners. Martis stays on the A tier. Number 5, the seinen manga protagonist, Benedetta. I think we have too many weeb insiders in this video. She got a slight boost on her first skill damage. In conclusion, after a lot of nerfs, Benedetta has been stuck on the same tier. This slight damage boost won't let her rise into the meta level. Benedetta stays on the A tier. Number 6, she looks like an underage girl but is actually a millennium years old, edit. I said I was not sure if she was 18 in my Smash or Pass video.
Flashback.
Oh, is she already over 18? I don't think so, she looks pretty young. Pass.
End of flashback.
And got like hundreds of comments that she's over 1000 years old. And I can smash her without any worries. Like, still, bruh, I don't want to. Okay, let's move on. Moonton is buffing our Gundam girl by reducing her first skill's cooldown. In conclusion, lower cooldown is nice, but her skills are still easy to avoid. It stays on the A tier. And here you have the full XP tier list. The ability to clear a wave is super important for these heroes, as well as the ability to split push and to deal and sustain a high amount of damage. A stronger early game presence is preferred as well. Next, let's talk about the good guys of the Mobile Legends community. Our brave and awesome roamers. Number 1 is Vexana simp, Tharamis. His passive got buffed so you can pick up soul fragments easier. Even though Muton said his ultimate is nerfed because the extra HP is reduced in the Spectre state, it doesn't really change how big his impact is in a team fight. Because the point of that state is give your teammates a free winter trunction. In conclusion, he's an instant pick-up ban candidate for a 5-man team. But I don't recommend to spam him in solo queue, especially in lower ranks, since his ultimate is very dependent on a solid team play. And we all know, the lower your rank is, the less your allies do what they are supposed to do. A tier for lower ranks in solo queue, S tier if you have a solid 5-man team or you're in mythical glory. Number 2, Daddy Franco. Huge nerf on his ultimate cooldown. This will make Franco players less annoying in the game. His hooks reveals the target for a brief moment now, which gives you more confidence when doing the hook and flicker trick on enemies who are hiding in the bush. In conclusion, no major change on his gameplay, only a couple less suppressions per match. Still annoying and a good pick for pick-off plays. Franco stays on the S tier. Number 3, the last evolution of Squidward, Atlas. They nerfed his passive because they reduced his bonus defensive, which makes him more fragile. His first skill's damage also got nerfed. In conclusion, Atlas will have a harder time to survive on the battlefield. But nothing major changed about his gameplay. He's still one step ahead of all the other setup tanks. S tier when playing in the 5-man team, higher A tier when playing solo queue. Number 4, Odette's true lover, Johnson. Moonton nerfed Johnson's damage on the late game, so less squishies get isekai'd into another world. Now he needs a passenger to secure our kills in the late game. No more solo rides for him. In conclusion, minor nerf and still a reliable pick on lower ranks. As long as you're not one of those drunk drivers. A tier. Here you have the full roam tier list. Again, my thoughts behind the placings. Pick-off and ambush roamers are a better choice if you are playing solo queue, because you're not so dependent on your teammates to bully your enemies. Teamfight-based heroes who use a single moment to change the game are rated lower in solo queue. It's up to chance whether your teammates follow the perfect setups that you have made. Also, supports like Angela, Rafaela or Diggy are better than Estes, since you can solely focus on the good performing person in your team and ignore the donkeys of the team. Next, we have the mid lane. Number 1 is the high school debut queen, Vexana. After the first revamp, she still couldn't compete with the meta heroes, but now she's a little bit stronger than before. They optimized her passive so it deals damage faster, and they also buffed her ultimate. So now the Undead Knight chases the enemies endlessly until the time runs out. She can also resummon the Undead Knight back to her side once. This is a good adjustment for her ultimate. Her Undead Knight can also inherit some of her attributes. I tested them out, but not every item gets inherited by the knight. He inherited extra HP from equipment, Genius One's passive, passive, anti-regen effects equipments, cursed helmets passive, and blade armor passive. He does not inherit it, extra damage from physical attack equipments, extra attack speed from equipments, extra movement speed from equipments, and passiveness from any other equipments. Yes, her knight's basic attack can trigger Lightning Truncheon, Calamity Reaper, Glowing Wand, Ice King Wand, Concentrated Energy, Shadow Twin Blades, and Feather of Heaven. In conclusion, she's not playable and deals a good chunk of damage using her knight and her second skill. You can pick her without any worries about shit talks from your teammates. She's also good at clearing minion waves, from lower B tier to higher B tier.
Melina is so cute.
Nana! Moonton nerfed her passive mercilessly. I understand if they would have increased her passive by 10 seconds, but 30 seconds is a bad joke to make Nana a less reasonable pick. They also removed the slow effect from her boomerang, and now her ultimate interval is also increased, making it easier to avoid. In conclusion, I really don't understand these nerfs. Moonton for some reason don't want Nana to be a meta pick, although they released a ton of skins for her. The nerf on her passive is overkill, and although her burst damage is still good, her CC ability took a huge nosedive into her concrete floor. She's still a good pick overall though. She just dies more often from now on. Nana moves from the A tier to the lower A tier. Number 3, the whole circus, Gord. I don't even remember how many times Moonton buffed the skater boy. They gave him a stronger slow effect when you fully stacked his passive. But this buff is only a gimmick to bait people to use him more often. His main problem isn't solved at all. His superpower is only to clear the lane. Imagine buying a legendary skin just to clear lanes. In conclusion, he's still unreliable as mage. So what if he can cast a skill while moving? Even if the aim from all his skills are on point, it is still easily to avoid by just one dash skill. Especially his ult where he's stuck on the ground. One combo from Hayabusa, Lancelot or Link will still delete him. And he can't do anything when being ambushed by meta picks. Even most B-tier heroes can easily defeat this dude. I'm sorry bro, you stay in the C or clown tier. Maybe you're in the higher clown tier from now on. Although higher clown makes him sound even clownier, whatever. Number 4, the I have more skins than my lover, Cecilion. Another nerf for our bad boy. Our bad boy. Slight damage reduction on his first skill, what makes him weaker in the early game. In conclusion, they made it harder to last hit minions when using his first skill. But it has no major effect on his gameplay. His bad impact still slaps after hundreds of stacks. S tier, because you can still carry your solo queue donkeys with him in the late game. Number 5, the kid that is playing Floor is Lava, Harith. The Forgotten Cat Boy got another buff on his damage, but he still struggles to fit into the current meta. His initial damage is increased, making his early game more deadly, and his mana cost is reduced, making him jump more often. In conclusion, if you know how to play him, give him a try. He can still be easily countered by heroes with big balls, and any strong CC heroes can also stop his movements. But a good pick on lower ranks because less people know how to counter him. Harith is still a solid A tier hero. Here you have the full mid lane tier list. I made sure the heroes are able to clear the minion wave fast, have a high mobility and high survivability on their own, and are not as dependent on their teammates. Some heroes are actually S tier heroes when you're in a 5-man team. Last, we have the gold lane. Number 1, the maker of Angelus doll? Maybe. Melissa. Some adjustments were implemented by Moonton to the doll maker. They increased her first skill cooldown in the beginning of the match, which makes her less agile in the early game. Her second skill got nerfed, and her spamming ability is reduced in the early game. The cooldown was increased, and the mana costs were adjusted, while Muddles disappears when there are no linked enemies. Her ult got buffed though. She gets 5 times more defense from her ultimate's passive when the skill is active. On max level, she receives a total bonus of 25 physical and magic defense when the ult is active. In conclusion, she's still a viable choice for the gold lane. She's still annoying in the beginning of the match, and the pokes from Muddles still hurt, because only her cooldown was adjusted. She can hold a candle when faced with the BBC squad. So, Beatrix, Brody and Clint. Melissa stays on the A tier. Number 2, the overgrown kid playing Lava is Floor? No, other way around, Floor is Lava. What one? Another nerf? Fuck! Her marks can now be removed by CC removal skills, like Purify, Diggi's ult, Valir's ult, etc. In conclusion, A minor nerf, but still a nerf nonetheless. This will lead to mistakes by diving in too deep, and she can be countered by even more heroes. 1-1 is still a SSS tier in my heart, but in reality, she's just an ST hero with a pick or ban flag. And these were already all heroes for the gold lane. Here's the full list. I made sure the heroes have the late game power to carry, the ability to clear minion waves fast, that they can survive alone on the lane, and that they have a high mobility to survive ganks as well. Heroes with strong early game potential to counter MMs are also included. Now after you know which heroes are good, you should definitely learn how to counter them all. See you over there!